Hey, it's Daniel Bradley here with the Bradley Explorers. Last week we covered this prompt here. Write a short story about a time traveler who discovers a hidden message in history, and we talked about how to make an attention grabbing opening of a story. Start it off right on a day that everything that changes. Well, today we're going to talk about white space. We're going to talk about using the white space of a page to as a storytelling element. So we're not talking about formatting so much as we are about paragraph structure. Let's read what we've got. A chill ran down the spine of old streets in London. It was November, and it was cold, and Horace couldn't believe his eyes. He'd found it, the one thing that had brought him this far back. Above him, written in flames, and not by him, Horace Fleming was here. Horace disagreed with the message. In fact, he hadn't been born early enough to write it. So this is a good paragraph, but now we're going to talk about this last sentence and what we can do with it to drive the emotion a little bit differently and maybe a little bit better. So a paragraph has its own kind of momentum. Horace Fleming was here. Horace disagreed with the message. In fact, he hadn't been born early enough to write it, and kind of flows right into that idea. Well, what if we want to add kind of a pause, an emotional kind of break for the reader to start painting their own picture of that emotion in their head? Let's make a new paragraph. Horace disagreed with the message. In fact, he hadn't been born early enough to write it. Let's knock out this transition as well. Horace Fleming was here. Horace disagreed with the message. He hadn't been born early enough to write it. So what we've done is we've zoomed in on a single idea of a single thought, right? With that white space around it, we're hoping that the reader pauses in it, thinks on it, and the idea builds into something that we don't even know exactly what their experience with it is going to be, but the rhythm of it creates an even different picture through our writer's lens. The thing about emotion is a story is it can't always be written. You can say something like, he was sad to see his friend on the ground dead. And that's great. You're telling a lot. You're spoon feeding the reader something that would be much more effective if they built the idea on their own with your guidance. For example, let's look at another idea, the kind of thing that we read a lot in stories. So there's lots of action. Kind of picture this in your mind. People shooting, let's say. The hero, let's name them Jed. Jed came upon his friend lying on the dirt face down. His jacket. He was dead. So you see the momentum here, right? Jed came upon his friend lying on the dirt face down. There was blood on his jacket. He was dead. But what happens if we take he was dead and we put it in a new paragraph? Jed came upon his friend lying on the dirt face down. There was blood on his jacket. He was dead. Just adding all that white space changes the rhythm of the reading experience and hits the emotion just a little bit differently. It's something you just have to play with because maybe you want it to keep going like this. You want the pacing to be fast paced. But if you want to zoom in and you want just that, the dead friend, 3 words, and all the emotion that comes from it, there it is. Now you don't need to say, like, Jed was sad to see his friend. There's a lot of telling that you might get into there in the, and showing like felt in this, we should try to stay away from words like felt and things like that. We should show something and let the emotion in itself, the pacing of the story, saying less is many times saying a lot more. We can get more into this in other videos, but for now, try it out in your stories. Let me know how it works in the comments.